Now, hello, the internet.
Welcome to Fireside Chat number 3. We've got an interesting time for you. It's 10 a.m. Australian time, whatever time it is for you. I'm very fluey. I don't think it's Rona, but so if I sound a little funky and I'm just kind of disgusting all around, then that's why. And in the background, you'll probably hear the sound of my 2.5-year-old playing and Bluey, because that's what you do.
Yeah, Bluey. Love Bluey.
Love
Love a
Bluey.
bit of Bluey. How
Third
good are
season
all the
out,
new
so
episodes of
good.
Bluey? Yeah, so good.
Anyway, that's Bluey. So welcome everyone. Yeah, today this morning we're gonna chat about, I guess kind of just cap off on where things are at with our initial bridge release. Hey Imran, good to see you, mate.
Hey.
Welcome. We're going to chat. We've got some really big news that we were sort of teasing about earlier, which we'll announce a bit later into the stream, which is really exciting. So yeah, Simon, you've had a bit of a chance to get hands-on with your Bridge 4 and Bridge 6. Do you want to just, hey Carlo, do you want to just tell us a bit about that? You were saying you were using it as a sustain pedal
Oh,
on your
yeah.
pitch.
I'll tell everyone about that. So, we're doing a Christmas church service practice the other day, and I was setting up a secondary keys rig for one of the guitarists to play in a song that he wasn't going to be playing in. So we just thought we'd do some pads and whatnot. And I forgot the sustain pedal. So I had to think and thought, oh, what can I do? I actually popped down to both the music stores close by, and they were both closed on a Sunday afternoon. And so I got back and went, oh, I could use my Bridge 4, which I had with me to show some people. So I
Hey
used the,
Simon,
yeah.
so I think your audio is pretty funky. It sounds like there's some like Bluetooth issue or something. It's kind of really choppy for me.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Okay, just a minute. Let me turn off
Sorry to interrupt.
that and that. Maybe too many video streams coming from my internet. Is that better?
Nah, no, not really. It's pretty. I hear Simon finds Sam is choppy though. Weird.
Yeah. You're choppy for me too. So
Okay, let me just try.
it might be your internet
Try
connection. So
this.
let's anyway. So
I think Restream just has some issues as well.
fixed. So I had my Bridge 4, and I thought, I will use the switch out mode on the Flexi port. So I just plugged a TRS cable from my Flexi port into my MIDI controller, the keyboard, and set the press function on the switch to the tip and ring, because normally a sustain pedal uses a TS cable. And then I just checked that the release was set to none still, rather than having something set. And then basically, yeah, it closed the switch when I pressed the switch and opened it when I released the switch. And I had a sustain pedal. It was great.
Worked well.
Yeah, worked fine. Yeah, I was worried about it being a bit tall,
Mm.
but I have a big long foot, so it was fine.
Yeah, I
And
think if you were,
that was pretty
because I
nifty.
come from sort of a classical and then contemporary piano background. If you're using it sitting down, I'd like, obviously it's going to be a completely different feel to an
No,
actual sustain pedal. But if you're using it sitting down, you might get some ankle tension. But
yeah, it
if you're
wouldn't be
standing
good
up or
sitting
you're on a
down.
stool, I'd imagine it would be okay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, standing up was fine. Yeah, so that
Yeah,
was pretty
nice.
cool. First real world use for me. That was great.
Very nice. Very nice. And Australia are flogging the Poms in the cricket, so things are looking great at the moment. Things are
Yeah,
looking great at the moment.
and Tasmania is getting the 5th test, so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Now, Simon, someone actually commented on the who was it? I believe Scott was questioning your choice of time zones, and he said, where was it? Like somewhere in Idaho is just the most random left of center town that no one ever talks about. So, you know.
Do you know why I chose that?
Why?
Because that's where the guys from Sunday Sounds are.
Oh, that's where David and Co. Hey, shout out to those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
So I just knew it was kind of in the middle, so I went with that.
Cool. Yeah. So, Carlo, your question from Carlo: has anyone tried it with Ableton yet? I'm sure it works, but curious about the experience. Yeah, good question. I actually did a video. This is quite a long way back, probably nearly a year ago, I'd say, where I was showing off the LFO functionality and actually queued up some LFOs to sort of bounce a dynamic EQ sweep on some drum tracks to get some really cool sound effects just on a little loop. And that's really neat. Basically, all you would need to do is, set up whatever MIDI commands that you want. And then, the easiest way to do it in Ableton is just put some random CC or whatever you want, however you want to do that. And then just use the assign MIDI function in Ableton to assign it to control. I'm not like an Ableton whiz, but that would be the way that I'd do it. Yeah, it's a little way buried down. We'll definitely be we've been planning a lot of content to do and things like that on using your Bridge 4 and Bridge 6 with various things. So we'll keep an eye out for some more up to date and more polished content. That was sort of like a top down phone type thing. Yeah. And Imran, question about sustain pedals and external switching. Could the bridge control something that can be controlled by a three switch pedal? Yes, I'm assuming you're talking about got our prototype bit at some generic aux switch. Yeah, 100%. So the way
I think he means the other way around, Sam. So something that you would normally plug one of those aux switches in, can you plug the Flexi port into it instead?
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
okay.
the way these work is you have a single TRS jack and 3 switches, and when you press 1, it connects the tip of the TRS to the sleeve. When you press sort of the other, or B, so A and B, it connects the ring to the sleeve. And when you press the third one, it connects the tip and the ring to the sleeve. So by doing that, you can get sort of 3 buttons out of just a TRS, which is exactly the way a FlexiPort switch out works. You can switch the tip and the ring either shorted to the sleeve or open. So you can emulate the exact same functionality. The only downside, and this applies with aux switches as well as the FlexiPort switch out, just because of the physical limitations, is you can't press 2 switches at the same time to do things, because pressing those 2 is exactly the same electrically as pressing that. So you can run into some issues there. But yeah, 100% you can do that with the switch out. I hope that answers your question. I am going to butcher this name, so I'm real. Okay, glad that answered your question, Imran. I'm so sorry. I'm going to butcher your name. Pripat.
It's I believe that's actually his gigging name, not his real name. I'm not certain on that, but
is that Matthias? I believe.
I think it is.
Like him.
Yeah,
yes. Sorry. How you doing? How you doing, mate? Sorry about that. Yeah. Cool. So it's a good question. I sort of haven't done a deep dive into that new functionality that they released. My understanding, and I'm kind of just going to paraphrase and ignore some of the intricacies, but yeah, it allows you to sort of assign kind of like one-shot functionality to switches and cycle through different things and control it from other switches or things like that. Yeah, totally. I don't really see there being any point in just cloning that feature. I think it's definitely useful, but it seems to be designed, great guys, great stuff from the Morningstar guys. They're fantastic, James and his team. I think it's designed to work around the way that like an MC6 or 8 or whatever, or 3 is set up, and the way that kind of the core functionality works. It's providing extra functionality in that. So after a little bit of thinking, I think there's actually a lot, some ways we could achieve a similar outcome, but in maybe a sort of more streamlined intuitive approach. But yeah, our main focus for the next couple of, it's kind of weird with Christmas time because we'll be taking a small break, but basically December and January, more or less in terms of firmware, is going to be addressing like bug fixes and issues, as well as just adding some of the features that might be there in a menu setting. So for example, sequential switch modes is there as a menu option, but it's not sort of implemented in the switch mechanics yet, so it doesn't sort of actually do anything. It's disabled in firmware while we just work through some issues with it. So the goal will be over the next now 6 weeks, I'd say, is to just streamline that user experience, iron out some of the issues. We've had quite a lot of some great feedback and input from everyone who's got one so far, just saying, oh, hey, I found this issue. We've been able to replicate those. I've been working through them. I've already fixed a good half of those already. They're patched and will be available in the next firmware release. In fact, I'll stop there because we'll probably talk about the app and where that's at as a bit of a separate thing. But
So in terms of the question we started with there, with the sequential mode, I also didn't quite get the time to watch the Shift and Shift Plus function explainer very well. Is it sort of like a sequential thing?
No, it's kind of a little bit different. I think that's probably not worth diving into here. It's a bit outside the scope, but no, it's a little bit differently. It's definitely cool. But would just sort of, there's some other ideas that I guess I've been fiddling with that will allow you to get similar expanded functionality, but in what I think is probably a little more useful way. But no, it's a really cool feature. I really, really like that.
Yeah. Nice. So, what's everyone here for? What did we tease? Let's start with a small one. And I think we might have mentioned this before, Sam, did we? That with the chip shortage that I'm sure most of you have heard of around the world, and that even impacted us for a couple of months this year, delaying us getting those circuit boards going. We have managed in the last month to secure, about 2,000 or 1,500?
It's close to 2,000 pieces
of the microcontrollers that we will need to build Bridge 6s, Bridge 4s, and other new products, which we will leave till a bit later in the stream. So that next year we are good to go. So it's one of the big limits on the manufacturing process at the moment was getting hold of those, and we snagged them while we could. So that's excellent piece of news number one for 2022.
Yeah. So the big news that we have, which is really exciting, at least for us, it's probably going to be, you'll either be, well understand our excitement about this, or it won't mean much to you. But the outcome either way is going to be really great for everyone. So we have just recently purchased our own pick and place and automated PCB assembly line. Hang on, take that down for a sec, Simon.
All right.
For me. Hang on, let me just shoot you something. But yeah, we have just recently secured our own pick and place, an entire automated assembly line for PCB manufacturing or PCB assembly, which is super cool. So if you're not aware, the way that a typical circuit board gets assembled is you run it through a machine, and there's automated little nozzles that come and pick up all your components, put them on the board, and then it moves through what's called a reflow process, which melts the solder paste that's been applied to the board according to a reflow profile. And then out comes a completed PCB. There's a couple other steps after that. You need to clean them and test them. But yeah, it's really exciting. So we're investing pretty heavily in our own manufacturing capabilities. For a couple of reasons. There's a couple of key benefits. So number one, is it's going to give us incredibly tight quality control and also the ability to make changes and iterate our hardware extremely rapidly, extremely quickly. So typically how this would work is you would contact a PCB assembly house or a contract manufacturer and place an order. Say, I would like 500 or 5,000 or 500,000 of this, please, sir. And they will say, sure, here is your price. And then you need to sort of go back and forwards and work out manufacturing files. And when you're handing something off to someone else to be manufactured, you have to spend quite a lot of time ensuring that they understand exactly what you mean. Because once you hit go on even just 500 of something, it's a fairly significant cost and a fairly significant opportunity cost in the time that you have to wait for that to happen, and you have to place very large orders in order to make it worth it. And so one of the things that's going to allow us to do is to prototype extremely quickly, develop new products, but also be in complete control of sort of the electrical hardware aspect. We're going to set up. I'm working on some pretty cool automated test procedures, which will test the ins and outs of every single board. Humans do a lot of things well. One of the things they don't do is repetitive tasks that require fine, extremely tight, precise control over lots of little things. And so, we're building that assembly line to just be doing what we're doing in the future in a way that I think is going to give us a really, really unique perspective in the industry. So that's sort of one, the quality control aspect and turnaround time. Two is how to put this? In the current kind of supply chain crisis. So as Simon kind of mentioned, the microcontrollers, in particular, just microcontrollers in general, and computer silicon is in extreme shortage at the moment. It's very hard to get a hold of. You're talking 1 to 2 years lead time for factories for new orders. So you're going through distributors trying to secure what stock they've got coming in. And what this means is that you have to forecast your manufacturing runs so far into the future that it makes it extremely difficult to release new hardware and to do it in a way that is sort of jumping on new features and new ideas all the time. So we were waiting on, if you might not be aware, we were waiting on the microcontrollers, the brains of the product, to arrive for quite some time. But in the meantime, a whole bunch of other stuff went out of stock, and it caused us a lot of headaches and a lot of delay trying to overcome that. It was not fun at all. But being manufacturing them all in house, we can jump on here's 2,000 pieces of this. Here's everything that we need, and we can be ready to go, which is really exciting. So that's due to arrive very early next year, so Q1 next year, which means we're going to be up and running manufacturing from basically the end of Q1, Q2 next year, and then it's going to be full steam ahead, which is super exciting. Super exciting. So we'll be posting heaps of videos, heaps of content about that, so on and so forth. But that kind of leads into our big announcement. It's not big announcement, but we're going to be opening up pre-orders for the next run. Simon, if you want to chat about that.
Yeah, so right now, as of the start of the stream, or a few minutes before the stream, I updated the website with shipping ETAs and that kind of thing. And you can order a Bridge 6, a Bridge 4, anything else on the site. Particularly want to spruik the Witty Jack bundle. We've put a discount on that so that you can get a Bridge 6 or a Bridge 4 with a Witty Jack for a discount from the normal
pretty
prices.
Good discount too. Yeah.
I think it's $30 off the $30 off the Bridge 6 bundle. Yeah, so we've already had a few orders roll in during the stream, so that's fantastic.
To whoever managed to place an order in the time that stock became available, but we hadn't quite updated that price, and you got a bit of a discount. I mean, of course, well done, kudos. The coupon king inside me applauds you. Well done.
Yeah, that's right. One person, I clicked the in stock button and then went to change the changed the retail price, and they got in with a $10 discount. So yeah, good job.
Love it. I love it. So
Yeah.
how that's going to work is we have some existing stock of basically the way that the units are currently assembled. Requires, like I was showing this off in the last live stream. There's an angled plastic bracket that holds the screen in place and things like that, and it's a good solution, but it's quite time consuming to assemble. But we do have a fair amount of existing stock of those parts. So the goal is that we'll be manufacturing the PCBs according to sort of using up the rest of that stock. So they'll actually be done pretty quickly. That's not going to have a hold up. And then we're going to do a bit of a redesign, not so much on the external appearance and functionality, but more just the way that it's assembled, so that it reduces our assembly time. It makes them more consistent and reliable to manufacture, and things like that.
Yeah, so this pre-order run is going to be 350 units again to use up that stock that we have on hand.
Yeah. Get them out to you guys as quickly as we can, which would be good. And yeah, so Carlo, you got a pre-order in. Very, very nice. So most of our speaking pre-orders, most of the Kickstarter and pre-orders have arrived. I believe we're getting emails from people saying, I got mine most days. The big holdup has been to a few places in Europe. I believe most of the US orders have arrived. Bearing in mind, not every parcel was shipped on the same day, so there might be a bit of discrepancy in that. But Ireland, Italy, a lot of sort of the central UK seems to be okay, but a couple of countries have just had international postage coming from us is just sort of a yeah, nah, which is weird. So we're going to monitor that, keep on top of that, and if we can find a workaround, we'll do that. But I wouldn't think that it should be too much further away for you guys. So just hang tight. It's not a case of necessarily the way it got posted, as much as Australia is a very unique country in that we're the world's largest island, and we exist in our own little land mass, big land mass. But at the same time, the rules and regulations for shipping to all these different countries vary so much. So there's a fair amount of sea that has to be covered in order to get to you guys. But Norway confirmed tour. Yeah, so good. I'm so glad, mate.
Yeah, a lot of the European countries had their international customs overwhelmed, basically, and they said to Australia Post, "No more parcels, please," basically. And so they've been sitting at Sydney Airport waiting to get on a plane.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of it wasn't even necessarily an Australia Post issue. It was, sort of the inbound customs from certain countries have been so backlogged that I believe they've kind of prioritized different countries and different things. So if you're in somewhere in the EU, it's obviously going to be a lot quicker to get something from some other country in the EU compared to Australia, where there's a lot more to process. So I think it's just a state of the world thing. Yeah, Imran, coming up to
COVID
Christmas.
plus Christmas.
It's just wild.
Yeah, it's a standard line I've included in any shipping inquiry emails we've had is like shipping plus Christmas plus COVID. What can you do?
Yeah. And we're not going to touch really much more about that on the stream because I think everyone's sort of sick to death. I know I am of hearing about COVID this, COVID that. It is what it is. Everyone knows what's up. But for us in Australia, we've just experienced a massive, an enormous outbreak in the state that I live in. There was a guy in Sydney who was told to isolate, was tested positive, ignored that, came up to Newcastle, 2 hours north, the city where I live, went to a nightclub, and like 2/3 of everyone at that nightclub became infected, became positive, and it's just been kind of wild. So if there's a couple of people, I believe, with the bridgeforce, we've got some still got some stock to assemble some units sort of sitting in here, and that's just been a little bit. We were hoping to get those out last week, but they didn't. The reason being that me and my family have had to isolate this whole last week gone because there was a positive case at my son's daycare. So we've kind of just been stuck, and now we're sick. I don't think it's COVID, but we'll get another test. So just be patient. Things are kind of a little crazy, and even if it looks different in your part of the world, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the way it is for other parts of the world. So
Yeah.
I think that's probably all we'll say about that. There's not much point diving into anything else.
Yep. Yeah. So those will go out as soon as possible, and we'll take new pre-orders in the meantime.
Yeah, and hey, Alma, good to see you, mate. For those of you guys, for those of you who are unaware, Alamar's our app developer. He's great. We mentioned him in the last live stream we did, but we've been working really hard on finalizing some last minute issues in the app. Had big day progress yesterday, and got things rolling really nicely. So thanks for all your patience with that. It has actually been good in some ways not having the app quite ready for launch, because it's meant that everyone's diving through the menus and the onboard configuration, and there's been a couple of little bugs picked up there that might not have been found if everyone was just using the app in some sort of weird edge cases. So that's actually been quite handy for us to just find those and pick them up and fix them.
Yeah. So what else is going to happen in 2022, Sam? There's been some teasers and some little show offs here and there, but I think as we get closer, it's about time we start talking about some stuff.
Yeah,
we got
absolutely.
planned.
So this is the main purpose of this stream, is to announce what give you guys a glimpse of the vision for next year. So part of what I talked about is we're investing pretty substantially in our own assembly manufacturing capabilities, with a PCB pick and place assembly line. But yeah, the main goal for us is to get manufacture and production of our Bridge 6 and Bridge 4 operating smoothly. We've had a lot of inquiries from distributors and retailers that are asking about stock, and we've just sort of had to say, look, just sort of pump the brakes. We're getting there. So yeah, we hope that's going to be, as we open up pre-orders, the idea will be that as those are shipping out, we'll continue building up stock and hopefully have regular stock available. Then we've got several really exciting new products coming next year. We've teased some of them. One of them is this little guy here. It's kind of it's called the triswitch for now. Whether we stick with that, I'm not sure, but we covered it a little more extensively in the live stream last time. But it's amazing. As a bit of a recap for you guys, it's really cool. It's has a couple of different modes, and it is an aux switch, a 3-switch auxiliary switch that you can use to expand an existing MIDI controller or add switch functionality to many pedals. And it'll work with unpowered, just out of the box, no worries. You can also power it, and you get LEDs for your aux switch to give you external feedback should you wish. But it's also a fully fledged MIDI controller as well. You've got USB-C, you've got a MIDI out so MIDI out also device link port. So not a full-blown Flexi port, but the MIDI out can also be used as device link. So you can just connect it with a TRS cable to your Bridge 6 or Bridge 4, and you can do really cool things like you might use one of these foot switches as tap tempo for a MIDI clock, and the beats per minute can display on the screen, but the LED here will flash in time, just like it would on your Bridge 6 or Bridge 4 switch. So there's bi-directional communication, which is really exciting. Then you've got your 1/4-inch TRS for the auxiliary switch, and that can be used independently. In conjunction, you could have this connected up to say like a Strymon big box or a Stomp to expand that, and use these switches how you would there, whilst at the same time loading up MIDI messages, CCs, node on, node off, whatever you want onto these. So really, really cool. We've got the Bridge 1, which I know Matthias has been really keen for. And actually, I'm going to go through. I don't have a physical prototype. It's in the other room, buried away under some boxes for now. But Matthias posted a couple of really good questions about the Bridge 1, and I thought, well, this is as good a time as any to just go through and answer them. Simon, are you able to bring up a screenshot just of the Bridge One prototype, so at least people can get a feel for what we're talking about?
I'll do that. Give me a sec.
So I'll just rattle these off. So is it possible to unscrew the screws of the switches so that you can install? I'll sort of just paraphrase a few things so that you can install multiple Bridge Ones in a custom housing. What's the thickness of it, etc. It's certainly possible. I don't think it's something we're going to officially support because it just raises a lot of technical support and customer support and excessive, I guess, just things that are a little bit outside the scope of what we would be confident in offering in terms of technical support, warranty, all that kind of thing. You, of course, you purchase something, you own it. It's yours to do with what you will. So you could, if you're handy with a soldering iron, have a bit of tech know-how. Of course, you can put them all in a custom enclosure and do what you want. That's no worries. So if you have 32 of them, can they be used as a MIDI editor at the same time? I want to see a picture of 32 of them connected up. That would be really cool. We haven't really thought about that, to be honest, yet. That's a bit outside the current scope of technical development. For the meantime, it's sort of a no. The intention isn't to just build a 32 foot switch controller that is essentially just a 32 foot switch controller with loads of 32 USB ports. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it and see what's a good solution and what works. How long will the internal battery of a Bridge One last? That's a good question. I should clarify, the Bridge One doesn't have an internal battery. So the Bridge One will have built-in WIDI tech. Built-in MIDI Bluetooth powered by the CME technology, which is really, really cool. It's my wife. Hello. Say hi to Mrs. Pirate MIDI. Half of Mrs. Pirate MIDI. Yeah. Mrs. Half of Pirate MIDI. So yeah, it's got wireless MIDI over Bluetooth, which will open up a whole bunch of different really cool opportunities, but it doesn't have a built-in battery. A couple of reasons. One, because of the size, the only way you could get a battery in there would be to use a custom-sized like a lithium polymer or lithium ion technology battery, and that's something where I'm really hesitant to do for a couple of reasons. One is devices with built-in batteries present a very, very challenging shipping. So if you're not aware, rechargeable batteries are actually pretty dangerous. The energy density of them is extraordinary. And by that, I mean the number of joules of energy packed into a small space with a chemical storage, they can often catch fire or explode or all sorts, a dozen different horrible, nasty things if they're not stored properly and used properly, if they're not charged properly. You have to ship them it's very, very complex and difficult to ship products like that, which will present, a large number of issues. The second is devices with built-in batteries present massive environmental impacts, which is something I'm really passionate about. So, for example, a good example of this is a PlayStation controller versus an Xbox controller. This isn't a PS5 versus Xbox Series argument or whatever. It's purely the fact that with an Xbox controller, I can go back and grab an Xbox 360 controller that's 15 years old. I can throw some fresh AA batteries in there, rechargeables. I've got a fair amount of rechargeables for those, and it works just as well as the day I got it. The battery life is just as good as day one, no worries at all. But a PS3 controller, basically, with the discharge cycle of the battery, will last a couple of minutes now, and so you have to always have it plugged in. And if you want to, it's not easily user replaceable. So once that battery degrades past a certain point, the entire product essentially becomes e-waste. It gets thrown out. The whole thing goes to landfill when it's really only the battery that needs replacing. So all of that to say that rechargeable batteries present a really complex challenge. And if we were to use a custom-sized battery, then we're in the position of, the battery life of a product degrades over time. So we would need to look at maybe having replacement batteries available to ship, and that is really complex. If you're just shipping a battery, not in a product, it's very, very dangerous. It can be done, but it's really quite dangerous. So for that reason, the Bridge one isn't going to have any built-in battery or rechargeable battery. There are some products that are in the works that we're looking at having, battery compartment for AAAs or AA's or some other battery format where you'll get exceptional battery life. But the other thing is, if you're at a gig, let's say you're playing a live show and you forget to charge it and your battery dies, if it's only an internal rechargeable, you have no option but to then connect it to power, wait for it to charge, or use it hardwired. Whereas if you have some sort of easily user accessible replaceable battery, even if they are rechargeables, a bit like a closed cell, then you can just put new batteries in, away you go, very minimal downtime, the show goes on. So that's probably the way we're going to go on this one. So with regards to USB-C charging, that sort of, would get that sort of answers that there. You raised the issue of barefoot buttons covering the display. Yep. Is sort of all I have to say to that, I guess.
Sam doesn't like barefoot buttons.
I never said that. I'm not anti-barefoot buttons. I'm also just not pro-barefoot buttons. But, I think you can't have your cake and eat it too. If we made this big enough for a barefoot button not to cover the display, and as well, a bit of extra room for when you're looking at it on an angle, the whole point of the compact form factor would be defeated. What you'd be far better off doing is leaving them as is, than using an external foot switch, say an aux switch or something else, and triggering the foot switches remotely with barefoot buttons on them if you wanted to do that. It's probably a better solution.
Yeah, so you can plug a tri switch into a Bridge 1 in the Flexi port.
Yeah, 100%. How bright will the display be? It's going to be similar brightness to the Bridge 6 and Bridge 4 units. There's actually, I believe we can eke out a reasonable amount more brightness out of the displays. So the displays that we're using, they're OLED screens, so they're not as bright in terms of pure, emissive brightness or perceived brightness as an LCD. But you perceive it to be quite a lot brighter because the contrast ratio is a lot higher. With an OLED display, it emits its own light, whereas an LCD uses one big backlight and then filters it out pixel by pixel. So that's why you have that grey washed out background on an LCD. So even though it might not be as bright, it's actually a lot easier to read and a lot crisper because of that contrast ratio. But they are grayscale capable displays. So I believe it's not actually running at current full brightness. Don't take this with a grain of salt, but there might be a reasonable amount more brightness that could be gained in a future firmware update. But the display will be plenty bright on the Bridge 1. No need to worry. Can we hook our Bridge 1 units to our setup at edit all units via a MIDI editor? It's a good question. Yeah, that's our goal. Down the line, our goal is to provide, we'd love to develop a mobile app, also be able to connect it via Bluetooth to the computer desktop app, but also have a mobile app where you can whip it out, configure everything on your device. That would be really great. It's not going to be something we'll do in the next month or two because it's a fair investment. We don't want to make an app that's just okay and we're just doing an app for the sake of having an app and it sucks and it's a bad user experience and no one wants to use it and it's a big just waste of time and money. When we do it, we want to do it right. So it's on the roadmap, and if things go sort of according to plan next year, we should have some more info about that out sort of early, midway through next year for you guys, I'd say. But yeah, definitely on the cards. The weight of the Bridge 1, to be confirmed. It's probably a bit lighter than this. I don't know. 150 grams, 200 grams, maybe. Throw away. I don't have it in my hand or a set of scales.
The Bridge 4 weighs 330 grams by itself.
So it's probably just going to be like 100 grams. Less than.
Maybe
super
less.
light. Yeah, super light. let's say you have 32 bridge. I'm sensing a pattern here. 32 bridge 1 units in your setup. Would it be possible to use up to 32 expression pedals in total? 100%. In fact, you could use more. You could use expression doublers for them and connect 2 expression pedals per bridge one. So you could have 64 expression pedals. I really hope to see this one day. Good luck.
I love how Matthias says it's light enough for busking then, but he's talking about getting 32 of them. Like, what
I know.
It's
It's 6.5 kilos worth of very light bridge ones. Yeah. But yeah, you're right about your previous question, Matthias. I would use an external power bank. And that's another thing where, power banks have become so commonplace lately, and that if you do want to battery power something like a bridge one, I can't imagine you would just have a bridge one sitting on a floor by itself with nothing else around it. So it's likely going on a small form factor pedal board or something like that, or on whatever it is. Powering something via a power bank with USB-C is a great solution, and I think it makes a lot more sense overall. Reached the end. Love your questions, by the way. Very well formatted post. Thank you much, Lee. But yeah, hope that answers them. If not, just comment on your post in the Pirate Meter users, and we can take another look for you.
Yeah. What does this one do, Sam?
The bridge one. Oh, that's our bypass looper. Simon, there's some more complete renders in the group. Maybe, I'm not sure.
Maybe only in comments. I couldn't find them in the photos section.
Maybe. Anyway, one of the new devices we have coming out, which we talked about last live stream, is a bypass looper. It's a relay bypass looper, so no order switching. We're working on some cool stuff for that down the line as well. But for a lot of people, I think just a standard bypass looper is a good target. But we've got a lot of secret sauce baked in, so it can do 6 stereo loops, 12 mono loops. It's a similar form factor to how, let me just find the dimensions. This is approximate, give or take several mils. I believe it's going to be around 155 millimeters long by sort of 52 millimeters deep, about 55, 60 millimeters tall. So very similar form factor to sort of some other bypass loopers in that format, but you get 12 mono loops. They're TRS jacks, so you can use breakout cables and switch all that stuff, or stereo effects right out of the box. You can configure how every loop works, whether it's stereo or 2 mono loops. You get selectable input-output buffers for both the left and right channels. They're fully independent and completely bypassable via mechanical relays, so very, very nice. There's also a MIDI controllable clean boost up to, I believe, about 26 dB of clean boost per channel, independently assignable, controllable in real time. Crazy cool. It's going to have built-in WIDI, so you can have it on one board with all of your pedals, and then just a controller with Bluetooth on another board, and just control it out of the box. It's got a screen. You can have a screen on it, so you can look at your loops. You're not just relying on like LED feedback. You can actually fully configure it on board with a nice OLED screen for real-time feedback. So yeah, it's super sweet. It's going to be coming out next year as well. So we've got the sort of the currently called triswitch, the bridge one, this bypass looper, which doesn't have an official name yet. But they're all going to be coming out next year. So next year is going to be really exciting. We've got a couple of other little cool, other products that we're working on releasing. So yeah.
What about the slim one?
Oh, the bridgeforce Slim. Yes. Did I show off the enclosure for that last stream?
I think you. Oh, I can't remember. Anyone
One
else
second.
remember?
1 second. Hold the fort, Simon.
Yeah, cool. So a Bridge 4 Slim is a Bridge 4, but 4 switches all in a row, and because that's just such a popular form factor. There's a few other controllers that have come out recently that use that form factor. People love to have the board and then everything to control the board right at the front in a single strip. And in terms of development time, it's almost just a hardware rearrangement because it's a Bridge 4. It has all the same functions and that kind of thing. So the ins and outs are the same. We don't get any more space to be able to put in full-size MIDI jacks, so it's still 3.5mm TRS, just like the Bridge 4. But we do have 3 screens, which you'll see in a minute, in between the switches instead of a big one in the middle like on the Bridge 4. So there will be a little bit of a software difference, firmware difference on the way the navigation looks on those screens. But here he is. Sam, I've just kind of given a rundown on the Bridge 4 Slim.
Yes. Hola.
So
it's
we're just waiting for you to show it off.
Yeah, all right, calm down. So this is just a prototype enclosure. But yeah, this is sort of the Bridge 4 Slim prototype so far. So it is exactly the same features, functionality as the Bridge 4, but in a different form factor, which I think is going to be really useful for having at the front of your board. If you don't want sort of 2 rows of switches, you get these all in one line. Plenty of room in between the foot switches. So I should correct, instead of 1 screen, you actually get 3. So these cutouts are 4, and each space has an OLED screen in there as well. So you'll end up with, it's going to be a little bit different sort of, the UI might be a little bit different to make up for that form factor, but you're going to probably get a bit more usable screen space along with that, which is super cool for your ports. So you're still going to have USB-C, DC power, 2 Flexi ports, MIDI in and out. So yeah, the whole shebang is going to be here, and it's, as you can see, it's really quite, compared to the tri-switch, it's really quite slim. Very cool. Yeah. It's got the exact same sloping angle as our Bridge 6 and Bridge 4, but it's more low profile. It actually fits perfectly in front of a Bridge 6, so it's sort of the enclosure slopes continuously. So yeah, very cool.
What's the size? Do you know the measurements of that one?
It's on my computer. I'm not in my work. I'm not in the sort of workshop at the moment. I'm in my wife's sewing room because we're doing a big reorganize to make place for the pick and place machine. It's a bit of a mess. So a quick sort of ruler measurement. It's about 225 mils in length. Top bit. Now it's crazy. It's only 40 millimeters deep, so it's super slim. Super streamlined, 40 millimeters deep, and then the maximum height is about 32, 33 mils. So really compact, really nice bit of kit. So this is also going to be coming out next year. So they're sort of some of the big products that we've got coming out and everything. Yep. There'll be cool things like you'll be able to use the profile of a Bridge 4 transfer over to a Bridge 4 Slim to sort of seamlessly sync things up. So yeah.
Yeah. So the order that we talked about them, the tri-switch, the Bridge 1, the bypass looper, and the Bridge 4 Slim is pretty much the order that we've planned to develop and release them. We haven't really set any particular dates, but if you just kind of spread them out over a year, those 4, that's sort of what we're going for. But we can't give any dates just yet. We've got to see how the late stage development goes. For manufacture.
No exact dates. I can tell you that this currently named tri-switch will be coming out first, and it's not really too far away. Our main concern was getting all of our Kickstarter and pre-orders out the door, dedicating a little bit of time to just working through any bugs, getting the firmware fairly ironed out, so we can start really pressing hard on the cool new features we've had in the pipeline for a while. And then, we're going to be running it hard at expanding our family of MIDI controllers and devices. So there was a question I think I missed. Elliot, did you... would love to know if the motorized faders you posted a while back might be a real product someday. That's a very good question. Yes. Yes, it will. I actually, that was almost a year ago that I showed a video of that. It's been in basic working functionality in the sense that you get these sweet LED meters that can be configured to either follow the faders or display the real-time volume according to an incoming MIDI signal, and use the fader to adjust that. And the idea was that where I see MIDI controllers and pedal boards in particular going is you'll rely less and less on the actual hardware controls of an individual device or an individual unit, but you will think less in terms of turning up the gain on one overdrive pedal, for example, and more about how that's going to impact your overall sound. So what sound do I want? And for that intent, you can have something with, say motorized faders and assign multiple MIDI messages to that to spit out to a bunch of different pedals. So instead of just saying, oh, I need to turn this up, this up, this up, you assign a sound to that. So you might have, reverb mix between some values. You might have the overdrive between some values again, and maybe a chorus. And as you bring that up and down, you're sort of controlling the parameters of sound with a single fader. So you're blending in completely different sounds and textures across all sorts of different devices with a single controlled via MIDI. And that's something that was the inspiration for doing something in that form factor. The tricky thing has just been figuring out the form factor, figuring out what exactly it looks like. So there's a big screen with names for everything there. Check out the user group if you're not sure what we're talking about. But we're just trying to work out what makes the most sense in terms of whether it should have some additional buttons on there, whether it should have, what the form factor is. There was talk last time we were chatting about putting it in like a Eurorack compatible module, and then making like a that sized Eurorack compatible enclosure. But then that in itself represents a lot of design challenges. You're limited in terms of the maximum height. So you would have to lose the row of buttons underneath. So yeah, we're kind of umming and ahhing. I would like to think that might rear its head towards the end of next year. It's certainly not out of the question. It just depends on how other things go. But I mean, yeah, firmware and basic hardware design, it's been kind of semi-done for quite a while. So
yeah,
stay tuned.
One of the cool things I liked on the RGB LED strips for each one was setting different zones with different colors. So, the classic sort of green, yellow, red, like a sound meter, but also just being able to set different color zones for, just a visual aid for now I'm crossing over into this preset parameter that I sort of, that I set.
Yeah. And
I really like that.
All the LEDs are fully RGB configurable. So you might have one where between this range it represents this sort of sound and this color, and then as you move up it sort of changes into something else, and you can assign different MIDI messages according to different zones and things like that. So super cool. Again, stay tuned on some more of that stuff. Cool. Well, yeah. Is there anything else we wanted to chat about? If you guys have any more questions, shoot them through. Totally fine. I'll keep an eye on those.
No, I think that was about it. We've announced that the pre-orders are open for the Bridge 6 and the Bridge 4 and everything on our website. We've told you guys about our awesome new manufacturing equipment that will be arriving early in the new year, and what that means for our product development time without having to send boards backwards and forwards from Asia. It just reduces our turnaround time a lot. We just get a circuit board, we can build it. We need a change, so we get some more boards and build it. Different ones. Michael says, did I miss Flexi Hub discussion earlier?
No,
Sam, I'll let you take it away.
We didn't chat about that. That's a good point. Thank you, Michael. Good to see you. Yeah, a little, again, like a year ago, we, back before we even launched the Kickstarter campaign, before it went live, we chatted about this idea called a Flexi Hub. And the idea was that it's a little box that would sit underneath your pedal board. It's the current prototype's only like 22 millimeters thick. It's something crazy. It can fit under a pedal train Nano, I believe, or a pedal train Junior, something like that. It's a crazy thin and compact, but it would basically allow you to connect to anything else remotely music gear related that has some sort of port on it. So it's the current prototype has MIDI input and output pairs. It's got 3 Flexi ports, so you can connect multiple Flexi port enabled devices up to it and build your network that way. It's got control voltage and expression pedal inputs. It's got control voltage and expression pedal outputs. It's got TRS switchable relay channels. It's got USB. It's got built-in WIDI, so Bluetooth over MIDI. It's got lots of stuff. We put that on the back burner when the chip shortage became quite severe because it is a fairly complex design electrically. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot of just moving parts in the sense of there's a lot of things would have to be available in order for us to manufacture it. And it was looking like that wasn't going to be the case, which is why we didn't push it. Things in that big lot of chips we secured, there are some of the chips we need for the Flexi Hub. We're going to keep an eye on that. But what I've done is actually sort of branched it out into 2 products. So I've got 2 different prototypes on my bench. And one is the Flexi Hub, as I described, where it's this Swiss Army knife of all kinds of crazy connectivity. The other one is sort of what I would call like a Flexi Hub MIDI or Flexi Hub Mini, maybe something like that. And it's more just MIDI focused. So you would get 5 MIDI input-output pairs, so you can bucket loads of MIDI, 2 Flexi ports, which can also be MIDI outputs if you like, or connecting and networking devices, and amp channel switching, so TRS switchable, relay switchable amp channel, WIDI, built-in WIDI, and USB, obviously, as well as DC power. And the idea being that for a lot of people, you're only really dealing in the realms of MIDI and maybe switching an amp channel with regards to what you're doing. And in particular, I built a prototype myself because my synth setup, I've got a whole bunch of different synths where I want the I/O. I want to be able to use it without a computer, which there are some solutions available, but doing USB without some sort of host computer is a big pain in the butt. So having MIDI input-output pairs all configured in that I can, decide in a matrix where MIDI should go and this and that was really appealing to me. And I didn't necessarily need the control voltage and expression pedal things. I just wanted lots of MIDI I/O, which is what you get with that. So yeah, that's maybe coming next year. I think the MIDI version might squeeze its way into the production schedule for next year at least. It just depends on how the landscape for silicon shortage and things looks. But I'm not going to guarantee it's coming next year, but there's a good chance that it will. It just depends on how things line up.
Yeah. Imran asked about the external switch in mode on the Flexi ports because the user manual currently reads, currently the choice is as follows. So he's basically asking, does that mean we're planning to expand the external switch input functions?
Good question. Yes, there's a little bit more work I'd like to do on what you can do with an external aux switch. One of the things I am cautious of is we wanted to create a really uniform user experience in terms of how the switches on your bridge work. LED feedback in particular is something that I think is really important. And whilst technically, you could change a lot of things to sort of make that, you could sort of reconfigure the way the firmware architecture works. Having things be really intuitive and uniform, I think is something that's really important. So that would be the beauty of something like this tri-switch in terms of expanding, where you do have that LED feedback and you have you can use a Flexi port to have bidirectional communication and expand your foot switches and not lose out on any of that. It's sort of up in the air a little bit. I guess we'll just wait and see based on some user feedback and go from there. Elliot,
basically, we don't just want to change the entire philosophy that we've got with the design on a few comments. As much as we love all your ideas, and we want to make this a great thing for you to use. If we just willy-nilly whacked every idea in it, it would just become a big mess. So yeah, we want to think about it.
It'd be Bruce Almighty.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, we
Yeah.
just want to make sure we think through how these things will integrate nicely with the rest of how they work, what the philosophy of the use is.
Yeah, and Elliot, you're right. I think it's definitely an opportunity for it. And this, the enclosure design we had for the motorized fader unit looked gorgeous. It would not be out of place at all on a really nice high end studio desk. And having flexi ports in there and things like that, you could chain multiple ones up. It's already got 16 fader channels through 4 pages, but you could chain multiple units up and expand it that way. Get more I/O, more faders, really, really easily.
Yeah.
Okay. Matthias, can we hook up our Bridge 146 units to our setup but edit all units via a MIDI editor via Bluetooth at the same time? If I'm understanding you correctly, yeah, you definitely can. So in the desktop app, you can choose which device is currently connected. If there's only one, it will automatically target that device. And you can set device names for it. We added in the sort of the one of the last things before the firmware, sort of the launch firmware release. So you can name your devices to easily work out which one's which, and you can have them all connected and just decide which one you're gonna, apply a profile to and things like that. It's really nice, really nice. Alma did a great job on that. Do change on the fly, don't need to discount. So yeah, so you could connect them up via a USB hub, for example, and then just plug that into your computer and decide which one you want to target. I haven't tested that. It will probably depend on the USB hub, but there's no reason why that wouldn't work. Cool. Yeah, Elliot, you said, I've been a fan of DIY with an existing Arduino library, but would love to keep buying products from Pirate MIDI. I will clarify on the brand name there. But I saw someone sort of asking to buy a Pirate 6, and I was like, I like your Moxie, but it's called a Bridge. Yeah, I love the DIY scene. I actually spent a few years working for a company here, doing like maker sort of space, technical tutorials and content and projects and things like that. So I've got a soft spot for sort of the maker movement and what that represents. We chatted last time about this idea we had called gizmos, which is our name for some things that probably wouldn't be their own full-blown standalone Pirate MIDI product, but are really cool things regardless. And so what we're going to do early next year, actually I've got some exciting news about that. What we're going to be doing is making some open source products or projects, and they might be just available for a limited time, and we do release one, so on and so forth. But we would release all the design and manufacturing files that are needed, say up onto GitHub in an open source format. So you can take those and you would be able to buy it from us, or you can go through the whole manufacturing process yourself if you so desire. You can make changes, you can make your own spin-off, you can do all that. But it would be more evolving around having an Arduino compatible or MicroPython compatible microcontroller on there. And so you could, we'll build a bit of a community around community uses, things like that. So we've got a small handful of things that we want to try out. And what they would do is I'm going to be doing a live video series showing the design from start to finish. So showing sort of the conceptualization, working out the form factor, doing the schematic design, the PCB layout, right through to some basic firmware development in a video series that you could watch, follow along with, and get some ideas from. And we've actually been chatting with a PCB manufacturer. I won't say who they are yet because we haven't finalized it, but they've offered to partner with us, and we'll have a bunch of coupons, vouchers to give away for discounts and free PCB manufacture and assembly if you want to get some of your own projects done. So yeah, there's going to be some cool stuff in that more DIY space, hopefully coming soon. So stay tuned. No, if you didn't catch it, I'm quite fluey and stuffy today, and surviving on some Nurofen and cold and flu. So I'm kind of getting close to done. But unless you guys have any other questions. Simon,
No,
what
there's
were you going to say something?
No more questions rolling in. I was just going to say, yeah, it's probably about time for us to wrap up. We've said all the exciting things. We're looking forward to pumping out tons and tons of MIDI stuff next year. Yeah.
Yeah, so keen. Tell you what, when we're approaching summer now, in December for us here. When it's winter, I would love to do a fireside chat actually by the fire. That would be great. Have a little fire in the backyard. But for now, I'm going to probably go and set up an inflatable pool in the backyard, crack out some tinnies, and sip on some delicious chilled beverages while watching the cricket. And I think that'll be my Saturday.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for watching. It's really good to have you all here to ask questions. And yeah, Aaron, yeah, we love the DIY environment. So yeah, we won't forget about you guys.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Good chat, everyone. If you have any other questions, post them in the user group. Don't personally inbox us, because our personal inboxes are just overflowing at the moment, and we tend to just not respond to them because we can't. Shoot the page a message. We're going to be taking a little bit of time off over Christmas. I'd say I'll probably work up until like Christmas Eve, maybe the day before, so probably like the 23rd or so. I might be around to answer some messages if I get some time, but then we're probably going to take a bit of time off until the new year. So I'll probably be back at it, I'd say around the 2nd of January. And we're going to be going full steam ahead. I'd say around January, that early January, we'll have be getting pretty close to releasing the desktop app, have bug fixes ready, things like that. There is a way that we can release a firmware update to you guys without the app. It just involves downloading a third-party program to upload the firmware. If I feel like we've gotten through a lot of the bug fixes and release things like that, I'd quite like to do that, because, for example, one of the known bugs is you can't edit the release message stack when you try and enter into the release message stack. The device freezes, locks up, and you have to reset it. So release messages in general aren't usable, and that really sucks. It was something that just crept in amongst trying to finalize the firmware for the release. That's already been fixed. I fixed that like last week. So if we can get a significant number of those little annoying, irritating bugs out of the way, I might look at just doing a post for the more adventurous few who would like to give that a go. Otherwise, very early January. Stay keen for that all coming up.
Yeah. So Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas. Thank you for your support.
And we will see you on the Facebook group.
Amazing. All right.